Welcome back to the fourth and final video in our series on the process of voluntary administrations and deed of company arrangements. My name is Chris Cook, a principal at Worrells Brisbane. I would like to round out the video series by providing an example of how a deed of company arrangement can actually save a business. I was one of the appointed administrators to the company Napoleon Purtis Cosmetics Australia Pty Ltd. For those that don't know, Napoleon Purtis was a large cosmetic brand and its business had fallen on difficult times as a result of an increasingly competitive cosmetics industry. At the time of our appointment, the company had operated 55 stores with a turnover of some $22 million. There was very little cash to even cover the wages for the staff. And this, combined with the pressure, he had a number of options available to him at the time. And this is not uncommon for many directors that find a similar situation. The first was, do nothing. Now this really wasn't an option, as the cash had run out and it was a case of the company would have had to close its doors and would likely ultimately have ended up in liquidation one way or another. And of course this would have been in a much worse position than it was at that time. The second option was to close the doors and appoint liquidators immediately. Now this would have immediately resulted in the termination of the staff and as such the crystallisation of the employee entitlements. And this was going to incur an additional cost of some $2 million. Further, the company was sitting on approximately $7 million worth of stock that would have been worth significantly less if there was no proper sales channel for this stock. And therefore the proceeds would be a lot less in a liquidation scenario. Further, all of the landlords would have had claims against the company for the balance of their outstanding leases. So in summary, the assets were worth considerably less and the value of the creditors was going to increase by over $20 million. The third and final option was for the director to appoint administrators with the plan to continue to trade on the business and try and sell it as a going concern. The director weighed up all these options and ultimately made the decision to appoint us as administrators with the goal of trading on the business in the hope it could be sold as a going concern. Now that we had been appointed as administrators, there were a number of key tasks that we then had to undertake. Firstly, we had to assess and secure the assets of the business, and this involved attending each store and securing the premises. We had to trade on the business and set up the internal controls to do that. We had to negotiate the sale of the business and formulate a possible deed of company arrangement proposal, and also investigate the affairs of the company and provide a report to creditors. After we were appointed, it was important to quickly assess the profitability of each of the 55 stores. And after undergoing analysis of each of the stores, we made the difficult decision to close 28 stores because they were simply not profitable and not capable of returning to profitable. But in closing these stores, combined with some other changes that we made into the business, it now made the business profitable and therefore a lot more attractive to potential purchasers. We then commenced a detailed marketing campaign for the sale of the business, and this campaign brought out over 40 interested parties, with the list whittling down to 5 genuinely interested parties by the end of it. From that, we did find our ultimate buyer. However, the challenge was, how would we structure the sale? And after a lot of consideration, it was determined the best way to proceed was through a deed of company arrangement proposal. A quick summary of what the proposal for the deed of company arrangement is as follows. Firstly, all of the assets of the company, including the IP and the stock, would remain with the company. All arms of the business, which included the retail arm, the online arm, and its wholesale arm to pharmacies, would form part of the sale. Employees would remain employed by the company, which was critical. A lump sum payment would be made by the interested buyer for the benefit of all creditors. And a creditors' trust would be established, whereby the DOCA would be immediately completed and the creditors and lump sum payment would be transferred to the creditors' trust. The benefit of this is that the company itself would become immediately out of deed of company arrangement, which would enable it to focus on the continuing trading of the business. Without a creditors' trust, the company would be subject to a DOCA until such time as all creditors were actually paid their dividends, which likely would have taken a number of months. So in this case, it was an important step in supporting the ongoing viability of the business going forward without the tarnished position of a VA or DOCA. We then issued a report to creditors, providing a summary of the DOCA proposal, along with the likely return in a liquidation scenario. We also provided a recommendation to creditors, and in this instance, we recommended that creditors vote in favour of the proposal. It was going to provide a better outcome for them. At the second meeting of creditors, it was resolved that the proposal for the DOCA be accepted and the business survive. So, in a nutshell, in this instance, the VA DOCA provided an outcome with some massive advantages. Firstly, the VA process allowed us to right-size the business, and this was not possible in any other circumstance other than a voluntary administration. It allowed us to preserve the business, particularly its brand and its stock value, and it allowed us to preserve its key stakeholders, including its suppliers, the landlords, employees, and even the customer base. And all of this was done in an extremely quick turnaround period of 4 months. Because of the creditors' trust, we could get in and out very quickly. So it was all done very, very quickly, and the business ultimately was saved. We hope you've enjoyed our video series on voluntary administrations, and please feel free to reach out to your local Worrells Principal if you would like to have any further information on these processes. And thank you for taking the time to watch these videos.